Okay, now take your time. I just want to make sure I'm not the holder.
Okay, Bismillah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق الناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره العظيم. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد عبدك ونبيك رسولك النبي الأمي. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وأزواج أمهات المؤمنين وذرياته وأهل البيت كما صليت على إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم إني أسألك من كل خير سألك منه محمد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وأعوذ بك من كل شر استعاذك منه محمد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. أما بعد. Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to our weekly Maliki Fiqh class. My name is Habib Rasul. This class is sponsored by the organization Nasrul Ilm America, which is an organization that supports humanitarian work as well as Islamic educational work like this. And alhamdulillah, it's an organization that I've been a part of for a long time. And alhamdulillah, we've been blessed with the opportunity to support and work with Shaykh Ameen, who's been doing this work much longer than any of us, really much longer than most of us have been alive. We have our weekly Maliki Fit class, and alhamdulillah, Shaykh Ameen has been teaching us lessons taken from the book Ashar As-Saghir, which is one of the highest level authoritative books in the Maliki Madhab. They use it in the graduate level at Azhar University. And this is information that he took from the renowned scholar of fiqh, of aqidah, and of tasawwuf, and of philosophy, Dr. Suleiman Dunya, rahmatullah alayhi. But today, Sheikh Amin has asked one of his best students, and also I would also give him the title of Khadim, one who does a lot of service for the community. Our brother, my big brother, Haj Dawood Abdul Salam. And this is the way for people who are new to studying with Sheikh Amin. This is the way that we learn from Sheikh Amin. This is the way he learned from Dr. Suleiman Dunya, rahmatullahi, where he would teach us the material, we would take notes, and then he would look at our notes and say, okay, yeah, you have the section on wudu good, but let's go through ghusl again, or maybe you have a little mistake in your notes, and we go through that lesson again. And then after a while, once Sheikh Amin, felt confident that we understood the material, he would ask us to teach the class, see how we taught the class, see how we, field questions and things like that. So alhamdulillah, this is it's I'm always excited and happy to see this because this means that alhamdulillah, we get the opportunity to have light upon light, like the Quran talks about light upon light. So inshallah ta'ala, we're going to have our class today with Brother Haj Dawood. And as normal, what I always encourage people to do is if you have questions, type them in the chat. Type them in the chat, and then inshallah ta'ala, we will have the questions at the end of the class. If for some reason you have trouble typing or something, you can raise your hand. We can take you off mute and ask the question. But it's good if you type them in the chat because that gives us a chance to kind of, decide which questions we want to ask first and things like that. But without further ado, I'm gonna turn the mic over to my big brother Haj Dawood. And alhamdulillah, I'm excited to be able to benefit from him today, inshallah, along with all of you, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العظيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العظيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العظيم أما بعد Bismillah. First of all, I'd like to say Assalamu alaikum to everyone who joined Turn your volume down, Jamila. Who joined today. And Habib Rasul, you mentioned the continuation from our notes. And I've been trying to think about or go over what I wanted to talk about. I called Shaykh Ameen several times and spoke to him about it. And he said, just give a basic talk when me and him talk, because me and him have spent quite a bit of time together, I guess in the last 5 or 6 years. And so this is going to be a general talk. And the topic of my talk today is going to be about commitment, and commitment to organizations like Nasrul Ilm, commitments to people like Shaykh Ameen, and to start out like his commitment to Dr. Dunya. Once we find a valid source of information as far as getting formal Islamic education, I believe that we should stick to it as best we can. And it's not like a thing where you could do cat and mouse and hit and miss, but it's about commitment and continuation. And if you don't feel like going to class, if you don't feel like participating in one of the programs of Nasrul Ilm, it's not an excuse. There's no excuse towards, preparing for our future, which is the life after this one. And we get out of it what we put into it. I want to say that I've been a Muslim probably for about 35 years. And I learned from being committed to a masjid that taught, and the person who was in charge of that said, either we're going to be Muslims of the street or Muslims of this deen. And there's so much to talk about when you talk about the importance of committing to organizations. But as Shaykh Ameen always says, we can't just commit to anything and anybody. We need to know credentials and things like that. So you said that, if you're going to go to a doctor, you don't want to know that he can perform an operation or he can take care of your health, but you want to know that he has the proper credentials to give you what you need. And I say that because once we find something like a solid foundation that's in accordance with the Ahl Sunnah wal Jamaat, we should commit to it, stick to it, and there's no excuses from participating in any of the events that's going on, not unless we're ill or something like that. I recall, like I said, being part of a masjid, and that masjid introduced me to things, or to things of tasawwuf, studying as far as the Maliki madhab. And before that, I was just going based on participating in anything to try to uplift my deen. I recall when I first met Shaykh Ameen, he had came to our masjid and he had gave a talk. And I want to say, seeing him for the first time, it made me felt like as if I was sitting on a bus stop waiting for a bus on a cold winter day, and it's like maybe 45 minutes to an hour for this bus to get there. But I could finally see the bus coming. I was waiting for someone to study with, and I knew that this person had to have correct credentials. And hearing him for the first time, I realized that he was a person that I need to look more into as far as furthering my Islamic education. So I'd like to thank him, but to all the new people who are not part of organizations or not part of a structured learning institute or a structured or qualified teacher is extremely important to participate in that, because that's going to get you where we need to go. I mean, we have to, like I said, our concern should be about our future, and the future is first the grave and answering the questions of the angels Munkar and Nakir, and we have to put in our work so that we'll be able to answer those questions in the correct manner. I just ask you everyone to be patient with me and bear with me, because like I said, I was really like skeptical about doing the talk, but inshallah, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give me strength. I study with and listen to a lot of people whom I respect and admire their where they was coming from and the teachings and their credentials. I remember one time I was reading something, or probably listening to somebody whom I respect, and they said that, I think it probably may have been a student of Imam Malik or one of the students of one of his scholars, and they said they spent quite a few years taking from his knowledge, and maybe like 8 years, and they spent 3 years taking from their character, and they wish they had spent their entire life taking their entire 11 years taken from the character of these people, because when you sit in the company of people like Shaykh Ameen and people like yourself, Habib Rasul, whom he have given the ijazah, you know, you pick up different qualities from these people. I once heard this Rum Brothers put it this way, that a person who hang around a musician, he have a tendency to pick up an instrument and become a musician. A person who hang around people with wealth, he have a tendency to find ways to accumulate and increase his wealth. And the people who hang around people of knowledge and commit themselves to people who's trying to fight in the cause of Islam have a tendency to become people like those. So I want to applaud you, you brothers of National Ilm, and I ask you, and I'll let you know that I'm gonna try my best to get involved in your circles because of commitment. It's just so many people I've worked with. I've seen Habib Rasul work with the people from Lamppost, and he's a brother who studied overseas, and he has credentials, and we must join. And like I said, put our input, as you mentioned about me, that's trying to my best to put my input in the causes that Sheikh Ameen teaches us to participate more. I've seen sitting in classes where some people are consistent and some people are inconsistent with their classes, but it's a must. It's very important to be consistent with those things. Alhamdulillah. Just I was hoping I wouldn't get here, get stuck, but inshallah, it's just a matter of committing yourself. And I said was sitting waiting on the bus stop, you know, waiting for somebody like Shaykh Ameen to come into my life, because I was part of another tariqah, and I'm trying to get more involved in matters of tariqah, because my spiritual development is just as important as my development of understanding how to practice my religion, which I get from Shaykh Ameen. And those are like some of the things that's important to me. I'm trying to think of some of the things that me and Shaykh Ameen discuss when we're together. I was part of Tariqa that was overseas, and I used to go overseas a lot to sit and try to study with them and take from them. And as I was mentioning about the student who was studying from either Imam Malik or one of his students, to that it's important to take from his knowledge, but it's more important to have good character and good manners. And I encourage everyone to try to get with some type of sheikh as far as knowledge is concerned, as well as some type of sheikh as far as the salwa is concerned, because this is what we need to purify our hearts. Because as we know, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that no one will enter Jannah unless they have a qalb salim, a heart that is sound and purified. So we must do what we have to do, and this to purify our hearts. And this commitment to people and organizations like Nasrul Ilm and people like Shaykh Ameen get us to our goals, so that we can leave this life in a good place. I don't know how long I'm supposed to talk, but
It's up to you. You know, if you know, whenever you feel like you're ready to move toward questions, you can. But you have as much time as you'd like as well. So we're not rushing you, but also don't feel like you have to go longer than you want to.
okay. Do we have any questions as of yet?
Yes, we have one question. It's actually from Brother Frank, but I think it's a great question because of the nature of the class. He asked, "What is tariqah? What is a tariqah?" You used the word tariqah, so maybe you could just give a little bit of a explanation of what that means and what you were referring to, inshallah.
Well, my understanding, and probably you or Sheikh Ameen could give a better, but I'll give you my understanding of tariqah is to commit yourself to an organization to strengthen yourself spiritually, inwardly. You know, Imam Malik says that the person, tariq is another word for tariqah is, to me, is hakika, which means purifying yourself inwardly. And the Sharia is the outward purification of yourself. And Imam Malik said that the person who practiced the Sharia without practicing the Hakika is of the fasik. He's of the extremists. He has no balance. And the person who practiced the Hakika without the Sharia, he's of the Darleen. He's of the one who goes astray. So we must combine, but he said the person who combines the two, he's the balanced individual. So we must not just work on ourselves, you know, as far as knowledge, but we must work on ourselves as far as character and mannerism. as I spoke about the student of Imam Malik, or one of his students, to take from a person's mannerism. And this is one of the importance of keeping the company of people like the brothers of Nasr Ilm, keeping the company of people like Sheikh Ameen. For Sheikh Ameen, it was for him for keeping the company of Dr. Suleiman Dunya, and on and so forth. You know, once we find something that we feel is beneficial to us, we know it. And we have to commit ourselves to these things as you have done, Frank, you know, because you're my student, and you in class, no matter what, you there. If I to come to the master for class, I look up, one of the first persons I see is you. So, you know, this commitment thing is I can't emphasize on how important it is once we find something that we feel is beneficial for us from an Islamic standpoint, to commit ourselves to it and be there no matter what, go above and do as much as we can, because we only putting, you know, money in the bank for our own future, which is the grave and then the hereafter, you know. Habib Rasul, I just want to ask you, you know, because I admire you and Sheikh Ameen so much. How was the answer for that?
Alhamdulillah, I thought it was good. I actually had a technical situation, so I missed part of your answer. But what I heard was absolutely right. And I guess all that I would add is that Allahumma salli wa sallam ala Muhammad. When this Dr. Dunya, Sheikh Amin told us that Dr. Dunya, well, so the word tariqah also refers to the tradition of tasawwuf. So when we talk about fiqh, you know, this is, or madhab, like the madhab of Imam Malik, this is connected to the science of fiqh. And when people talk about tariqah, this is connected to the science of tasawwuf. And Dr. Dunya used to say that the person who practices tasawwuf, or like you said, Hajj Dawood, spiritual purification, also closely connected to the term hakika. Dr. Dunya used to say that the Sufi, yes, Dr. Dunya used to say the person who practices this is the one who's best in knowledge and best in practice. That this was the Sufi who's best in knowledge and best in practice. So just like you said, to combine the learning the deen with spiritual purification, how you practice the deen, and it's really characterized by a person saying, okay, in addition to doing all the things that Islam says we're supposed to do, I'm also going to take this daily routine of extra worship, extra nafila that I'm going to do. So for the tariqah I follow, we do dhikr. We say astaghfirullah 100 times, and prayers on the Prophet 100 times, la ilaha illallah 100 times in the morning and the evening. And also you have, like Hajj Dawood said, you're connected to a community, right? So you'll have a sheikh who has the permission and has the knowledge in the subject, who helps to hold you accountable and helps to give you advice. So that's really what we mean when we say tariqah.
Jazakallah khair, Habib Rasul.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Anyone else send any more questions? Is there any more questions, Habib?
Yes, someone just typed a question. I think this is a good one. He says, why do the Muslims in general not take heed from someone like Sheikh Ameen? So I don't know what thoughts you might have about that. But what so they're asking, why do some people not take heed to people like Sheikh Ameen? And maybe you can talk to us about why taking heed from someone like Sheikh Ameen is so important.
Well, I like to say
your own experience.
My own experience from, you know, American standpoint is the watered down Islamic information that we get. Like Sheikh Amin always talk about, when Dr. Dunya gave Sheikh Amin the Shah Sagriya to come over here and teach us, there was a lot of questions about teaching us this book, because the majority of the Islamic information that we get is like elementary school information. Like he always mentioned, like you read these prayer books and teaching you how to offer salat, they leave out things, and when they talk about subjects like sujood sal, they just put that if you make a mistake, in regards to what the mistake is, you make the prostration after after the salams, when that's not correct. There's certain times that you have to make the prostration before salams and make the prostration after salams. So the majority, and also another thing that Shaykh Ameen spoke about a couple of weeks back, that there's many uh, in the case of non-Muslims, I know it's called mustashiyun, the enemies of Islam. And in the case of Muslims, you have some Muslims he mentioned that are enemies of Islam. And they tell you, because like I said, I've been Muslim for about 35 years. And I remember studying with certain groups that they tell you if you hear the word tasawwuf, Sufi, Hakika, to run as far and as fast as you can, and I remember when I was first introduced to it, I'm like, should I run or should I not run? But alhamdulillah, and I thank Allah much for giving me the patience to sit down and understand the benefits I could get from working on my character and my deen, and being able to present myself in an orderly fashion. I benefit a lot from it, and I'm still benefiting. I'm not perfect. I'm trying my best to be better. So that's another reason to commit yourself, because when you in the presence of people like Dr. Dunya and Sheikh Ameen, there's more than you get from his studying his knowledge. You get a part of his character. They say just inhale the fragrance of people of knowledge. It's a benefit. You understand? You inhale something special from them. So those are the things. The question was why people are not coming towards it, because you have many people and organizations spending money to try to prevent people, and especially the African American Muslim, from advancing and getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We talk about Hakika, we talk about um, um, Tariqa and stuff like that. These things are designed, the Tariqa, the leader of Tariqa is designed, he's there to help you be, to to close the gap between you and Allah, so that you and your Lord can have a stronger relationship. Like Habib Rasul said that, you know, doing the dhikr, you know what I'm saying, and doing Salatul Nabi, prayers on the Prophet, and these and but these things you get from being inside of a tariqah. These are some of the benefits, as well as a whole lot of inhaling the fragrance of the spiritual check. You know, I remember we used to go overseas to see the spiritual check I had from back in the day, and this said, you bring this check, a little, you know, a small gift. We would give him some perfume, some oil, and he give you something spiritual to go to in return for these gifts that he received. And I remember one time we went, and so we presented him with our little gifts, and then he says, well, what can I do for you? How can I help you? What are some of your concerns? And we presented to him that our concerns was our children. What do we need to do to get our children to have the same himma, the same determination as we have? And he says, youth in itself, he said, is an illness and a disease. And he said, the only cure for that is growing old. So he said, let them be. As they get older, they'll grow. I remember talking to my wife this morning, and I was saying, you remember some of the things that your mother used to say to you that you used to think was nonsense? And as you get older, you see yourself treating your children the same way that your parents treated you. You know what I'm saying? And you realize these things. And when the Sheikh told us that, you know, we respected it, you know, and we took it, and we eased up off our children, you know, and but we still don't stop trying to give them and push them towards getting a closer relationship with Allah. You know, the Prophet Muhammad said the best thing you could teach your children is good manners. This is one of the things we learn when we join tariqas, is how to behave correctly. You know, I've heard a lot of bad things said about tariqas. They used to hear things about, oh, people walking on fire and they do all these crazy things. And I remember being around certain Muslims I've known for years, and they said, oh, I heard you was Sufi down and this and that and the other. And the only thing I could say to that person, I wish I could take what's inside of me and pull it out of me and put it in you and let you see what I see, and you would change your mind immediately, you know, because there's so many benefits we learn when we participate in tariqas. Inshallah, I really would appreciate it if the brothers from Nasru Ilm reached out to me, because I want to become a part of you. I wanted to say that too, because anything that Shaykh Ameen, he put his endorsement on, his stamp of approval, you know what I'm saying? I've always been with it, and it has to be some tremendous benefit in it. Abri Rasul, you have anything else that you would like to add?
No, I thought that was excellent. And inshallah, we're gonna reach out to you, either myself or City Ishaq. You know, we're gonna reach out to you and inshallah become more connected, inshallah ta'ala.
I would love that.
For sure. But no, I thought that was excellent. And we do have a couple more questions, and I you know, you already know this, but I'll just say it anyway. I know sometimes often when I get questions, I defer to Shaykh Ameen and let people know, you know, Shaykh Ameen will answer that next week. So, you know, don't feel that, you know, if it's a question that you and me are struggling with, then they can ask Shaykh Ameen next week, inshallah.
One of Imam Malik's things that he used to say often is no shame in saying I don't know. And if I don't know, I will definitely say that.
Alhamdulillah. So with that, we have, I guess, three more questions, two or three more questions. One person is asking, she said in the Maliki madhab, when one cannot make sujood tilawa, like when, you know, if anybody who doesn't know, when sujood tilawa is when there are certain points in the recitation of Quran, there are certain places where you make sajda, where the verse in the Quran may say make sajda when you hear the praises of Allah, things like that. So this person is asking, if somebody cannot make sajda, like a woman who's on her monthly, her menses, what should you do?
Well, first of all, like you said, if I don't know the answer, should that woman be reading Quran if she's on her menses?
So she mentioned that, like, if you're listening to the Quran, like if you're not touching it, but you hear it, and it comes to that point where it says to make sajda, what should you do?
Okay, that's a question that I will refer to Shaykh Ameen on, because he's more knowledgeable. And inshallah, I'm gonna write that question down, or can you write it down and save it for next week?
Okay, inshallah, I'll write it down, and we'll have Shaykh Ameen give us an answer to that next week, inshallah ta'ala. Alhamdulillah. Also, we have the question, alhamdulillah, Imam Ahmed Abdul Salam this year, alhamdulillah. Imam Ahmed typed in the text, he said one can bow their head in sujood. What I believe he means is that they can bow their head without actually making the sajda. You know, they don't have to actually put their head on the ground, because that wouldn't be proper to do in a state like that, where you can't, you know, where you can't have wudu, like a woman who's on her menses. But you can simply bow your head symbolically, right? Is that correct, Imam Ahmed? What were you saying? How's that work?
I was saying, like, if you're making one of the sunnah prayers, and then you choose to sit down as opposed to prostrate yourself, and you bow your head to go into sujood, or you bow your head to go into turn
right onto Springside Avenue. Correct. And Imam Ahmed, if that's that's my understanding as well. So that's what I think you mean by your text. But if I'm wrong, or you want to add anything, please correct me, Imam Ahmed.
But this is the beauty of committing yourself to an organization when you have many people to fall back on. As you said, you know that I asked you something before we got on camera, and you said it's a mirror reflection that we all can communicate with people who study and who have knowledge, and then we won't be getting information from just anybody, or as Sheikh Ameen say, the hot dog vendor on the corner.
Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Imam, how are you?
Alhamdulillah. How are you? Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Good, good. Alhamdulillah.
So I just chimed in on just came in, and I heard the it says sajda tilawa. Is it fard? It is not fard. It is not an obligation to make sajda tilawa, because first of all, that it is a part of the sunnah. It is a sunnah al-aqad of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And any act that you do, a sunnah, is if you do it, you get rewarded, and if you abandon it, there's no harm in doing and abandoning it. But if you do it, it is reward. So when the sajda tilawa comes, and you're not in a position to make prostration, a full prostration, since that it is considered a sunnah al-mu'akkada of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu, a confirmed sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one is able to omit it if he isn't able to properly do it, because it is not a wajib, it's not fard. Whereas it can be bad adab to be able to do it and not do it. But if you're with the circumstances that we're speaking in now, is, for example, if a woman is reciting Quran on her menses. Now, as the Shaykh mentioned here, he said that a woman should not be touching the Quran or reciting the Quran in her menses. But if she is learning the Quran, she is permissible to touch the part that she is learning. Or if she is reciting from her memory and she gets to a part where it says it requires a sujood, and she can make sujood, or she can just stand and sit down and prostrate her head in reverence to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Likewise, for someone who is sitting in a chair and unable to make prostration, as we know, it is permissible to pray sitting, standing, or even lying down. So in this part where the tilawa to sajda, prostration of the reading the Quran, when it comes, it is not obligatory, and one can put their head down. If one is reciting Quran while they're going to work, or they're on the way to, or they drive, or whatever it may be, and it gets to the position they can put their head down and awe and reverence to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hope that clears that question.
Jazakallahu khair.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Shaykh.
Okay, Habib Rasul, you said there were a couple more questions.
Nah. So a person. Well, there's two more questions. One, is from our uncle. Alhamdulillah. Sidi Abdul Qudus Shabazz. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How you doing, uncle? He was mentioning if you saw, but I don't know. Maybe that's something you wanna kind of leave for Sheikh Ameen to next week, or if you wanna give a little bit more description of it. But and you kind of did give a description of it when you said, that the books they talk about sujood sal in a shortened way that's not really correct, because they try to oversimplify it. But if you want to just give, I guess maybe just an overview or description of what sujood sal is and when you make it, inshallah, if you feel comfortable.
Yes, sujood sal is the way you correct mistake that's made in salat. And as Sheikh Ameen always says, it's a lengthy subject, but I just tried my best to give you a short summary of some of the important things that's outstanding that as I can remember. Sujood sal is first of all, in salat, there's certain aspects that's fard, and there's certain aspects that's sunnah. And then you have two types of sunnahs. You have the sunnah kafifa, which is the small sunnahs, and the sunnah muakkada. And if you miss a sunnah muakkada, then you have to perform the sujood sal to correct that part of the prayer. If you miss one sunnah kafifa, it's all right. You can go on and continue your prayer. But two of them equals a sunnah muakkada, which is a major sunnah, and there's way to correct it. But the sujoodul sal is based on correcting it, whether or not you added something to the prayer or you forgot something from the prayer, as far as when do you make the sujoodul sal, before or after the salams. If you add something to your prayer, like for instance, if you came up from ruku and then you went back down into ruku, you understand what I'm saying? That's you adding something to your prayer. So you would make the sujoodul sal after the salam, after you salam out. And if you forgot something, let's say for instance a sunnah aspect of the prayer, like the second surah in a raka, you said al-Fatiha, but you didn't say the second surah in al-Fatiha. After the al-Fatiha, before you salam out, when you in tashahhud and you get ready to say ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu, before you say that, you would make your two prostrations for forgetting something or leaving something off. Inshallah, Habib Rasul, I refer to you because you have ijazah from my teacher.
Alhamdulillah. Nah, what you said was good. You know, alhamdulillah. It was and like you said, it's such a long subject that you know, I think it was a great overview. You know, sujood sal literally means prostration and forgetfulness. When you forget, when you make a mistake in the prayer, either because you added something or you left something off from forgetfulness, this is what you do to correct the prayer. So I thought your answer was very good, alhamdulillah. And we have one more question. And if anybody else has any questions, please type them in the chat, inshallah, ASAP, because I think we'll probably close off soon, inshallah. But we have another question, which I think is a good question for us. And Imam Ahmed, if you want to add on as well, inshallah, please do. But the person is asking, if you are not ready to take bay'ah with a specific tariqah or sheikh. Bay'ah just means like allegiance. It's, you know, it comes from when the Sahabas, they took a pledge of bay'ah with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when you take a sheikh as your teacher, as your spiritual guide, they often call this bay'ah. So they asked if you're not ready to take bay'ah with a specific tariqah or sheikh. So if you haven't found a community, or like Hajj Abu said, an organization or a group that you're ready to commit to in that way, she's asking, do we have suggestions of dhikr, of adhkar, of remembrances, of dhikrs that a person should do beforehand? And she mentions Latif, and I'm familiar with a Latif. With a Latif is a weird that's comprised mostly of adhkar from the hadith. So for a person who doesn't have a particular trick, you know, this is a good one for people to do. But Hajj Dawood, Imam Ahmed, do y'all have advice for somebody in that situation?
Well, like Shaykh Ameen says, you know, the majority, you know, and you said, you know, that you wake up in the morning or after Salat, and I was always preferably after you do the Salat at Fajr time or after Maghrib. You know, we start out with, you know, saying La ilaha illallah maybe 100 times, or saying astaghfirullah 100 times, doing Salatul Nabi, prayers on the Prophet. You know, you just keep working on yourself, and Allah sees what you do, and seeing what you do, inshallah, may he guide you to the correct path that you're seeking.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, no, I completely concur with that. You know, I'll share that, you know, before I took.
Your voice is breaking up.
There was
we missed you, Habib.
Oh, yeah.
Your voice broke up.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was saying I completely agree with everything you said. I think that's excellent advice. Allah Ta'ala says in His Quran that if you're grateful, then He'll teach you. And one way that we show our gratitude is by actually, acting on the knowledge we have. If a person, Allah gives you knowledge of how to worship Him, and you follow it, then Allah is gonna give you more guidance and more knowledge. And I'll just share that before I took tariqah, there was I had some of the books with hadith about different prayers different prayers that the Prophet ﷺ would prescribe people to do. There was one that I used to like to do often, where the Prophet ﷺ said, the person who says 100 times a day, La ilaha illallah, wahdahu la sharika lah, lahul mulku wa lahul hamd, wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir, the shaitan will not approach them that day, and they'll be elevated so many levels, and they'll receive forgiveness. So many have these kinds of Islam, prescribe people to do that a person can do while they're on the journey of asking Allah to give them further guidance of a shaykh or a path to do. And some of the scholars, they say that a person who doesn't have a shaykh, when they can do prayers on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, salatu ala nabi, salawat, this will serve as their shaykh. But again, this is a temporary solution, because ultimately, as I always say when I'm in the classes that I teach, the scholars say we don't take our knowledge from black marks on a white page. We take our knowledge from one heart to the next. So you do have to eventually connect with a person, like Hajj Dawood has been telling us, throughout the day, throughout the class. You got to connect with somebody who's qualified and who has good character to give you guidance. Sidi Imam Ahmed, did you want to add anything to that? Any additional advice from the sister's question?
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Yes, in addition to what you've both said, is definitely applicable to every situation. First thing, she has to know, and everyone who else is seeking a path, that it is imperative that one takes a shaykh, because Abu Yazid al-Bustami, he said, "Man la shaykhun lahu fasara shaytan shaykhuhu." He said, "He who does not have a shaykh, then shaitan becomes his shaykh." And one must know that Allah also said in the Quran, "Wattabi' sabila man anaba ilayya," that you must follow the ones who have attained me, or who has returned to me in repentance, meaning following someone who has reached the station of ma'rifat to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so they can guide and show you the ropes. Now, in taking bay'ah, one has to also know that even though that you're taking bay'ah with a shaykh, it's not you're taking bay'ah to a shaykh, you're actually taking bay'ah with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as he mentioned in the Quran, talking to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يُبَايِعُونَكَ إِنَّمَا يُبَايِعُونَ اللَّهَ يَدَّ اللَّهِ فَوْقَ أَيْدِيهِمْ. He said that indeed those who pledge allegiance to you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in reality they are pledging their allegiance to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يَدَّ اللَّهِ فَوْقَ أَيْدِيهِمْ, and he said that Allah's hands or his protection will be over their affairs. فَمَنْ نَكَثَ فَإِنَّمَا يَنْكُثُ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ, and he whosoever breaks their promise to what they are promised, meaning taking allegiance to worship Allah more and seeking Him in a more in-depth manner, whoever breaks that, for he has only made himself, put himself in a detrimental state. وَمَنْ أَوْفَى بِمَا أَهْدِي, and whoever establishes what they have fulfilled their promise that they pledged to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah will give him a great reward. So as Sidi Habib mentioned, he said, if someone doesn't have a shaykh, then let Salatul ala Nabi be their temporary shaykh. And Shaykh Hassan radiallahu ta'ala, he used to say, when the student is ready, the shaykh will appear. So my advice to the sister is to, don't rush into anything, but at the same time, keep in mind that eventually, as Sidi Habib mentioned, that Salat ala Nabi is just temporary, because you must have a live and living shaykh that can show you the ropes and guide and give you the knowledge from his heart to your heart. And alhamdulillah, hopefully that is what I wanted to add, and hopefully it is beneficial to the sister.
So Jazakallahu Khan, Imam, that was excellent. And that's why, when I was asked to give this talk, it was about I could come up with nothing more than commitment and commitment to the things that you believe that's going to get you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Alhamdulillah.
Jazakumullah khair, Jazakumullah khair, Jazakumullah khair, Imam Ahmed. And just for anybody who doesn't know, the Imam mentioned Shaykh Hassan. This is because I know we have people from a lot of different backgrounds in the class. So Shaykh Hassan is Shaykh Hassan Sisi, who was a great scholar of Islam, humanitarian, wali of Allah, which is a person who's achieved spiritual excellence. Sometimes translated as the friends of Allah, the protected friends of Allah. Some people even translate it as saints. But a person who's reached this high spiritual level. So Shaykh Hassan Sisi was a great scholar and a great sheikh from Senegal, West Africa, who came to the U.S. in the mid-1970s and introduced the people to Tasawwuf, introduced the people to the rich history of Islam in West Africa. And some of us, like Imam Ahmed, actually traveled to Senegal and was practically raised, in the house of Shaykh Hassan. Not practically, was raised in the house of Shaykh Hassan. And for how many years, Ahmed? I think like a decade, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. And Imam Ahmed's father is also one of our great teachers and leaders, Imam Saeed Abdul Salam, radiallahu ta'ala, who was the first muqaddam, the first
You're breaking up, Habib.
representative of Shaykh.
Yes. Habib Rasul, we didn't hear you. You were breaking
up. I cut out. I was saying
Yeah.
Imam Ahmed's father, Imam Saeed Abdul Salam, radiallahu ta'ala, may Allah be pleased with him, was the first American representative, the first muqaddam of Shaykh Hassan Sisi here in America. So I just, if you stay with us consistently, you're learning about the history of these people. But for anybody who's new, I want you to at least know when he's saying Shaykh Hassan, this is the Shaykh Hassan he's talking about, Shaykh Hassan Sisi, who's also the grandson of Sheikh Ibrahim Niyas, the renowned luminary from Senegal, West Africa, of Islamic knowledge and spiritual teaching, and the son of Sidi Aliou Sisi, who was Sheikh Ibrahim's top student, inshallah ta'ala. So I hope that gives some. I'm always shy when I'm talking about these big people because I always feel like I'm leaving something out. That's why you hear me talk about Sheikh Hassan or Sheikh Ibrahim or Imam Saeed or Dr. Dunya. I go on and on because I'm not doing them justice, But inshallah, if you stick around, you're gonna learn about all of these people by learning from the people that they touched and who they transformed. And so on that note, I want to ask what I think will be the last question for Hajj Dawood. Someone asked, learning with Sheikh Ameen from his character, learning with Sheikh Ameen's character for the benefit of their deen, inwardly or outwardly. So I think what they're asking is, learning from Sheikh Ameen, his character, the inward and outward information you're learning, how has it been changing you? How have you been changed and transformed from your time with Sheikh Ameen?
Excellent. Well, like I said, I was sitting with Sheikh Ameen for about 5-6 years. And we sit in the Masjid Islamic Culture Center on 96th Street, and it'd be many people coming in there to offer Salatul Tur while we be in class. And I've seen him get challenged with different questions and or maybe disrespect, and the way he handled himself in a respectful manner is like I try to think about myself in my younger days. If somebody came at me like that, I might respond like hostile. And this is another reason why it's important to join a tariqah, because it helps you gather yourself together inwardly to not get attached emotionally, but spiritually, to the response for the question. The best thing a Muslim can have is good character. And sitting with Sheikh Ameen and watch him get into talks and conversations with different people, and see him remain composed and poised, having forbearance, not letting his buttons be pushed, is one of the benefits that I've gotten from sitting in his company.
MashaAllah. May I add a little thing onto that, Habib?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Bismillah.
Alhamdulillah. So, as Sheikh Dawood mentioned, adab is the best thing one can ever have. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, Allah didn't praise him for anything in the Quran except وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ, that surely you are amongst best of character. Now, Imam Malik, rahimahullah, before, if you read about his history, when he went to study, his mother told him, from anyone that he sits with, she said, خُذْ مِنْ أَدَبِهِ قَبْلَ أَنْ تَأْخُذْ مِنْ إِلْمِهِ. She said, one of the profound advice that his mother gave him was to take from that person's adab before you take from his ilm. Because the difference between who has ilm and no adab is the same as Iblis. Iblis, he has, besides Allah and the prophets and the prophet, he is the most knowledgeable besides Allah and the prophets. But what brought him down was because he had no adab. What debased him was he had no adab. So if you're going to seek any knowledge from any person, make sure that person is of good character. And as Shaykh Dawood mentioned, I also sat under Shaykh Ameen, not too long, but I sat under him for many of his classes, and his adab is impeccable.
Yes,
and it is impeccable. And he doesn't, like you mentioned, he doesn't confront people or respond in anger. And that is a trait of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if anyone sits under Shaykh Ameen, you will learn. And they say you are, or your character will be with the company you sit with. And they gave a parable of when you enter into a perfumery, even if you don't touch any of the perfumes, when you exit that store, you will smell fragrant, you will smell sweet. Likewise, if you enter a place where there's filth and trash, even if it doesn't touch it, once you come out of there, you will smell like the trash. So that is the liking of sitting with people with good adab. You immediately receive from the mercy of Allah their adab.
Alhamdulillah, Shaykh. I totally agree with you. Okay, Habib Rasul, any more questions came in?
No, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah khair. May Allah reward you. Hajj Dawood, may Allah reward you. Imam, subhanAllah, Imam Ahmed. SubhanAllah, I want to say Imam Saeed. Indeed, inshallah, when we sit with you, we're also benefiting from your father, Imam Saeed.
Ameen, alhamdulillah.
And I'd like to offer my complete thanks to Allah for having brothers like you and Imam Ahmed and Sheikh Ameen put into my life. And like I said, the beginning of this talk was about commitment. Once you find something that's better than what you have, commit to that. And like the Sheikh said, like the Imam says, that Allah will see where you're at and he'll elevate you. And when it's time for your Sheikh to appear and arrive, it'll be when you're ready. But you're not going to be ready unless you prepare yourself. And I think this format, this program, Sheikh Ameen and the brothers of Nasr Ilm is a great start.
Alhamdulillah. Barakallah.
Okay, Habib Rasul, if there's no more questions, you want to take us out, give us a dua?
Okay, inshallah. Only because you told me to. And I couldn't hear the last thing you were saying because my phone was going in and out. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah khair once again. Jazakumullah khair, Hajj Dawood, may Allah reward you. And we're looking forward to you coming back and giving class again, inshallah ta'ala, for sure. And alhamdulillah, I mean, this is one of the things that I know, pleases Shaykh Ameen. When the scholarly people, Allah gives them the ability to sort of replicate themselves, So like when you said, you wish you could take what's in your heart and put it in somebody else, alhamdulillah, that's what Allah has given you the ability to do. Shaykh Ameen did it with us, and now you're doing it for the people. So may Allah reward you, continue to elevate you, and make you successful. And inshallah, may Allah reward everybody for joining today. I always make the dua. I pray that Allah Ta'ala blesses us to have a good understanding of this knowledge, rewards us for coming to seek this knowledge, helps us have a good understanding of this knowledge, and blesses us to implement it in a way that is pleasing to Him.
bijay Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and forgive us if we make any mistakes in teaching the knowledge and reminding the people, as the famous dua that we know Malcolm used to always make, or the famous reminder, anything good that you get, it's coming from Allah, and any of the mistakes, they're our own. So we ask Allah to forgive us, and we ask Allah to reward us, and I ask Allah to reward all of you. Bijay Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. اللهم أرنا حقا حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا باطلا باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق الناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدر العظيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم جماعة. إن شاء الله.
Walaikum salam. Shukran, Dr. Rasul. Appreciate you so much.
I appreciate you, see. Inshallah. See you soon.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Well.